It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome to The New Next, a podcast that addresses current events and how they will impact the future. That I didn't even realize that I was paying attention to as I was paying attention to it. When I'd listened to news reports and stuff about where Disney tried to start an interactive video game company, it eventually was the copy of the, the little token things that you put on your control. I can't remember the exact thing, but the amount of iterations they went through that with the public that failed. And I understand technology fails in public, but Iger, and like now knowing that Iger wanted to merge with Apple before, it makes it all the more like, oh crap, what would have happened because Disney spent a good 8 years trying to find ways to break into YouTube type things, to getting into video game type things. Again, the content for the video games have always been super, awesome, but they've never been able to do a good, they try to start their own video game console, but that's not their area. Their area is creating cool things to play on the console, not to make the console.
Well, I think to go to Joel's point earlier, like when you're a Disney, when you're a large corporation, your expertise at that point is to deliver profits to shareholders.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like your legal job. And if you're good at your job, you're a capital allocator. You're not creative, basically. Right. And there's a lot of companies that I would say a lot of large companies don't take enough risks. And that's why it's encouraging to see them start some of these like labs, like say it Disney Labs, Creative Labs or something that share the infrastructure, but can just do whatever they want. Or like the moonshots for Google. Like, I don't know if Disney has something like that, but it's really hard for a company CEO to stay in their job if they're like, well, we're going to change everything that got here. The board's probably not going to let them do it. And if they do, they're going to probably let them dip their toe in the water, which a lot of times doesn't really work unless you're committed. And it's just when you manage that much revenue, it's really hard to do anything that might be unique or different that can potentially provide any sort of substantial risk to the business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think even with so I said that the reason why Chapek got fired was ultimately Scarlett Johansson, and then some of these other things. But also, as you just said, the bottom line is they lost $15 billion this past quarter. They've lost $22 billion this year.
Wow. In 2022?
If I might have some of that off, but I'm pretty sure that was what I read.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
But it's so as much as I say it's all these other things, the reason why he got through the Scarlett Johansson thing in 2020 is because Disney Plus made billions upon billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And every quarter it was fine. 2021, 2021, billions of dollars. Everything's fine. Doesn't matter that the parks aren't making anything. Disney as a whole is making money. But Disney didn't make money this last quarter. They lost money. And he was on thin ice because of all his controversy. That made it that much easier. Like, well, you know what? He's had one bad quarter in 2.5 years. No, he's always been on they would like to have fired him probably earlier, but money was coming in. And so the shareholders held a higher position. So that is something that I don't like to say. I wanted to say that Disney made a good moral choice, but it was financial.
Well, I think this is really interesting. And as always the case, whenever a CEO returns to the company that they've been for a long time, really root for them to succeed. I hope this is the case too. Unfortunately, that's not historically been the case. It's usually tarnish their legacy. And I don't feel so. We talk about Apple. Apple's a good case where Jobs came in and built on his legacy. He was kind of looked at as a twit, I'd say, when he left originally. But I think Iger will be pretty successful. He's still probably the cultural heart of the company, even though he's a nameless or a corporate suit. But he really is. It's interesting to see the strategy play out here in the next couple of years.
I know. So my cousin owns stock in Disney, and he threatened over the past 2 years, like he's like, I'm going to sell my stock in Disney because I hate Bob Chapek. Like that's how much. And I think that's I think he's a great example of the general sentiment of the regular Disney person.
Yeah.
Who's hardcore, but really loves it. Again, I want to say Bob Iger was not loved by the parks people as much as the entertainment, the movie industry type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob Iger solidifies himself if he's able to find a company like Apple who buys Disney for a great amount of money, because he doesn't look like a bad guy in this. And he gets a paycheck, and he doesn't have to find a successor because he's obviously not talented or skilled in finding a successor.
That's always the best, the best course of action when you're a politician or a CEO and you got a hard decision, is to get someone else to make it.
Yeah. And just so if people want to know where I got a lot of this information, because oh, Mike, you really care about Disney. The book Disney Wars was written in like 2008, 2006. It's a 30-hour Audible book. But it's really, it goes through the history of Disney and what led to the rise and fall of Eisner specifically, and talks about how Iger's history at ABC was not always as positive as people might want to believe it was. But if you would like to learn more about the New Next podcast, find us at thenewnextpodcast.com, where you can suggest a topic you would like for us to cover. If you enjoyed what you heard, share the podcast, tell a friend about it, or rate us with 5 stars.